Hi, my name is Keith Littleton. I'm the Automotive Program Manager here at Jones Technical Institute in Jacksonville, Florida. This is the third video that we're going to be doing about the fault box. The first video was about the basics. Second video was about the considerations before you actually install the box on your training vehicle. This third video is actually going to go over and walk you step by step through how to put a fault in. We're not going to go through every single fault, but we're going to give you an example of how to do it because the rest of them are very similar. We will go over some details and just make sure you completely understand before you put a fault in kind of what you're looking for, what kind of tools you need, and how much time it's going to take. So let's get started. Okay, by now you should have watched video number 1, which is fault box basics. You also should have watched video number 2, which is the preparation and considerations before you actually install the wiring harness into the training vehicle. During video number 2, we talked about making a list and putting together all the faults that you want to. I have suggested faults in there, but you do whatever you want. But I just suggest them if you've never put one in. If you wanted to take my suggestions and just make it easier, so you can just take the list that I put together and go that route. I have many other lists, and I'll put my contact information on the end of this video. So if you want to email me, I can send you, like I've got transmission faults, ABS faults, engine performance, CAN communication faults, these types of things that might just give you a head start. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go over the wiring harness, the fault box harness that you get, and kind of the labeling, and talk about the instruction manual and what you should really be concerned with. And also, just make sure you have available a scan tool when you're putting in the actual faults. So once you actually break the integrity of a wire, you can make sure what you've done has the end result of what you intended. So is it going to set a fault? Is the data going to look the way you want it to look? So these types of things. So I'm going to zoom in, let you take a look at the harness, and kind of go over the labeling. Okay, hopefully you can see this in the video. It's not that critical that you're that close and they can read them, but I'm just going to cover these three because these wires are a little bit different than the rest. The pink wire is the parasitic drain wire, and that goes to direct battery voltage. The ground wire, this is the black one, is going to go to chassis ground. And then the reference voltage, which is a red wire, is going to parallel the 5-volt reference at the PCM. So we got the parasitic drain, we got the ground, and the reference voltage. So those three are just a little bit different than the rest of the faults. Now, we're going to actually install the engine coolant temp sensor fault inside this 2008 Camry. The S1. This S1 identifies the sensor 1 switch inside the fault box. Okay? And then inside your instruction manual too, it also references S1 and tells you the color and tells you where you're supposed to put it in the harness. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to go over, zoom in with the camera on the PCM and show you how we're going to install that fault inside the engine coolant temp sensor. As you can see right here, I've got the S1 from the fault box harness right here, and I'm going to tap into the top of the PCM where the wiring harness goes in. So with the battery disconnected, what I'm going to do is pull the locks back, pull these off, and then I'm going to pull apart the connector so I can tap into the wiring harness right here. So I'm going to shut the video off, pull these covers back, and then I'll start the video back up and show you where we're going to tap into it. Okay, now that you can see the PCM connector, I've pulled back, so I've got all the wires exposed. I've identified pin 98, which is the engine coolant temp sensor signal wire. So I'm going to take my shears and I am going to snip that particular circuit. So now what I'm going to do, the fault box harness, the one with the tracer, is going to be connected to the wire that goes back to the PCM, and then the other wire is going to go back towards the harness. So I'm going to shut the video down and hook up the scan tool and have this laid out so I can check and make sure that what I wanted to have happen here before I solder everything in, so I can move forward. So let's do that. Okay, hopefully you can see all this. What I've done here, I just wanted to show you this real quick. We have a wireless interface that we hook up to the OBD2 connector. All of our training vehicles have one, so it can communicate with our tablet. Now, on this particular tablet, the Surface, we have an app that is a free app that, you know, it reads codes, it reads basic data, and it does a few other things, but that's not what the video is about. So, but it is a free app, so just be aware of that. And like I said, if you have any questions about that or something, I'll give you my contact information. So what we're going to do, I'm going to communicate with the vehicle, turn the key on, and I've faulted the vehicle. As you saw, I snipped the engine coolant temp sensor circuit, and so I'm going to make sure that it will put a code in here, and I'll look at the data to make sure it's going to do what I want it to do. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I put the vehicle all back together. Remember, I snipped the engine coolant temp sensor signal circuit, but I put the battery back in, got everything put back together, and turned the key on. So now we have to connect to the wireless interface, which it did. And now what I want to do is check the codes to find out if it did what I wanted. And I don't know if you can read that, but we do have an engine coolant temp sensor code, which that's what I wanted. So now just to double check, we are going to go back and look at the data. So we're going to go to fuel, and we're going to hit play. And I don't know if you can read that. Let me see if I can't zoom in a little bit more. Okay, let's hit Fahrenheit. So we have negative 40 degrees, which indicates that I have an open circuit. So the data matches up with what I wanted, and it set the code that I wanted. So now I feel comfortable. I can solder everything in and feel comfortable with that particular fault. Well, okay. Basically, you saw how to insert a fault, where I chose to put it, and we checked the fault after we cut the wire. It did what we wanted. I put everything back together, and I actually installed the other 3 faults as well. So this harness is completely done, ready to go. And so I'm going to zoom in so you can take a look at that. Okay, so as you can see, I've put everything back together, put it back just like it looked before. Okay, now that we've completed that portion of the installation, I'd just like to recap kind of what we've done. So hopefully you've watched video 1 and 2, fault box basics, and the preparation and considerations before you do an install. And this one's just a real quick video on how to actually install a bug on the vehicle, and kind of the identification of the harness and the tracers and using the installation instructions. So we're going to do some more videos on different types of faults. That was a sensor fault. We picked engine coolant temp sensor. And once we've done all the different installations for faults, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a final video on an actual operation of the fault box and things that I use it for in training, that maybe that will help you decide how to use the fault box. So again, thanks for watching the videos, and I'm going to put my contact information at the very end of the video, so if you have any questions. So thanks again for watching.